As the title suggests, I managed to place in the top 100 on the leaderboard for a popular task on Kovaaks after just a few weeks of aiming on a pen. Now, if you watched my recent video where I spoke about when I first bought my drawing tablet and tried aiming with a pen, I said that I thought the pen was actually better than the mouse for certain situations. And I wanted to prove that. So about a week ago, I loaded up my favorite game on Steam, Kovaaks, and looked for popular scenarios where I thought the pen would really shine. And when looking through the most popular scenarios, I quickly found this one, Tile Frenzy 180 Strafing Tracking, a task that had a 4.7 out of 5 rating and about 25,000 entries to the leaderboard. I had played this task only a handful of times in the past on a mouse, and I thought this would be a good spot to start. At first, I just wanted to see how the pen felt for a task like this and see what kind of score I could get. In my first hour or so of playing, I got a score of 101, which put me around the 500 mark on the leaderboard and in the top 2% of players. Not a bad start, but I certainly wasn't satisfied with it. If I was really going to prove the pen's effectiveness over the mouse, I needed to do a lot better than this. I was set on getting at least a top 100 spot on the leaderboard. So, I got to grinding. I upped my sensitivity a lot over my next runs as I didn't have a great deal of space on my drawing tablet, and for a task like this I really didn't need to be very precise. Speed was the primary focus here. I did many more runs over the next couple of days, and in that time I experimented with just hovering the pen over the drawing tablet the entire time rather than holding it down on the tablet to shoot. Overall, hovering the pen felt better. I spoke about the lack of friction in my previous video and how it was a big upside with the pen in my opinion compared to the mouse, so at this point I was just using my shift key to shoot and hovering the pen to aim. It meant zero friction, max speed, and it felt pretty good. At this point I'd gotten my score up to a 104, which landed me around 250 on the leaderboard and just in the top 1%. But of course this wasn't enough because it wasn't the top 100. Now at this point I was actually stuck at 104 for a while. Over the space of about 24 hours I had matched that PB over 10 times and just couldn't seem to beat it, even though I could see so much room for improvement. So I took a break for a couple of days, did some other things, played some other games, and returned to it a couple of days later. Now during that couple of days of break I hadn't actually aimed with the pen at all and could feel I was a little bit rusty. My first runs back on I was barely hitting a score of 100. But I got back into the flow of it pretty quickly, and after warming up and grinding away for a few hours on and off, I got this run. A 106. I had beaten my PB by 2, putting me at the number 139 spot on the leaderboard and in the top 0.6%. This score was also only 1 off of being in the top 100, so I was pretty happy with this one. Over the next couple of days, I was playing less and less Kovaaks, maybe about an hour or less each day, and I was stuck at the PB of 106 now. I matched it again over 10 times, and again I took a couple of days of break. At the time, Next Fest had just started, and there was a demo that me and my mate were looking forward to playing, so I was playing quite a bit of that and wasn't really focusing on Kovaaks, and to be honest, I'd kind of given up on the idea of getting the top 100 score. I'd stopped thinking about it, and I suppose I just decided that I was content with a 106 score. I mean, it was only 1 point off top 100. But I had always planned on making this video to show the potential of aiming with a pen, and there was no way I was making the video about how I got 1 score off of top 100. The challenge I had set from the start was to get at least a top 100 score with the pen. At this point I actually felt pretty disappointed that I hadn't achieved my goals, and after a few days without touching Kovaaks at all, one day I woke up, I didn't have work, and I finally decided to load it back up and beat that 106 score and get my top 100 spot I'd been chasing. But when I loaded up the task and looked at the leaderboards, I realized that beating the score by 1 was no longer going to cut it. A handful of people had broken that 107 mark since I'd stopped playing a few days earlier, and they'd pushed the scores down the leaderboard, meaning that 107 would now put me just outside the top 100 range. So now I needed at least 108. Now, considering I was stuck at 106 and hadn't touched Kovaaks in quite a few days, I figured this wasn't going to be a very easy task at this point. But again, I started grinding. And not long in, I'd warmed up and I was hitting a 105 or 106 on my better runs. But again, I was stuck. Hours of replaying the same task and I just could not seem to break that 106 mark. I was taking frequent breaks, but coming back to Kovaaks and grinding away into the night. Then finally, about 8 hours into this session, and on my 414th total completed run of this task, I got this run.
Okay, we did it.
A 108. Again, I had jumped my score up by 2 from my PB, and thank God I did. I would have been sitting at literally number 101 at this point if I had only gotten a 107, but with the 108 I had landed myself at number 78 on the leaderboard and in the top 0.3% of players, and I had finally achieved a top 100 score on a popular task in Kovaaks using a pen. And after all that, I watched the 108 run back and I honestly still wasn't that satisfied. I could see so much room for improvement and know that I could do a lot better. Who knows, maybe I'll go for a top 10 spot next. But either way, for now, I was happy that I'd achieved my goal. So, does this prove that the pen is better than the mouse for this scenario? Well, not really, but considering only about 4 weeks earlier was my first time ever using a drawing tablet, and now I was hitting top 100 scores on popular Kovaaks tasks, I would say that that's a pretty good indication of the potential of the pen. Now, of course, the skills and hand-eye coordination that I've developed and refined over years of aiming with a mouse certainly translate quite well to aiming with a pen. Could I have gotten this score with a mouse? Of course, I have much better scores than this on other tasks using a mouse. But like I said, the lack of friction and precise control you get with a pen will never be matched by the mouse. But yeah, that's the brief story of how I got a top 100 score on a popular Kovaaks task within a few weeks of aiming with a pen. I'd like to hear what you think of this style of video. Leave me a comment and let me know. I always enjoy reading the comments, and if you want to see more of my content, then consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.